question one.
Yeah.
First off, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
So we're here with Greg and Sharon from Ion Art, who are, how would you classify yourself? You're neon artists primarily, but from what we've seen, it's so much more.
Yeah, we, what would you call yourself? Greg's that kind of a tinker, inventor, I don't know.
Fabricator, artist.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, select all.
Yeah.
So the first question really is, who are the Keshishians?
Well, so Sharon and I met in the mid '80s, and Sharon had started her company, Ion Art, and she was doing neon art, and we became friends. And eventually, I started working for Sharon, and she was the artist and the neon blower and the creative director behind the company. I was more of the nuts and bolts guy. I was doing the fabrication of the metalwork and the painting, and the electrical componentry that goes into all of this. I was sort of responsible for that. The friendship and the professional relationship eventually turned into a romance, and we dated for 5 years, and then eventually got married. And so we've been married for 30 years now. So
congratulations.
A long time. We've been doing this.
So in the beginning, we were a tiny company. It was just Sharon and I and a couple of employees. And over the years, the company has grown. We're approximately 35 people strong now, of very talented people that specialize in various fields, from being artists and fabricators and machinists, and we have project managers and administrators, and so it's kind of like turned into like a real company at some point.
At some point,
Well, it evolved. We started off doing art, and then people started asking us for neon signs or for other things, architectural decor, and it evolved into more of a commercial company, and we had 49, 50 employees for years up until COVID. And then we, had to let some people go. I mean, it was what it was.
Yeah.
And we got smaller, and then we decided we really didn't want to go back big again. But a few years before then, we had already decided we had wanted to turn back to doing more of the arts and get away from more of the commercial stuff. And so we started the first Surreal show in 2017.
Which is the show we're at now,
which
is in the Zilker Botanic Gardens in Austin.
Yeah.
And you guys have kind of just took over the Botanic Gardens with neon art everywhere, isn't it?
Well, we really only take over about 6 or 7 of the 27 acres.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
We don't have enough pieces to take over the whole thing yet. Yes, but every year it can grow a little bit, or we can spread out. And all the pieces here, the neon just looks so pretty out in the woods and in the grass, and the glow of the light. I don't know, there's something about it that makes it really nice. And the other thing really nice about doing the show here at the garden is that most people that live in a city don't get to go outdoors anywhere at night or out in the woods or in a park, because unless you're a camper or you're a person that likes to do that kind of stuff, you never get that opportunity. Yeah. And so it gives people an opportunity to get to come here, and enjoy the park after dark, and then see all the art, and it's kind of
I totally get it. I totally get why this works. I get it. I get it, and I also don't understand why it works so well. Because I've walked through here and I'm like, it's not, neon art and nature couldn't be at further ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then I'm walking through here and I'm like, this all works.
It does.
Why does it all work?
Yeah.
So credit to you guys, because it works.
Yeah.
So how did it evolve? You started in stained glass, am I right?
I was doing stained glass, yes, back in the early 80s, and then I wanted to add neon to some of I did traditional stained glass for years, but then I kind of evolved to doing more stained glass art, like dimensional, or seeing where I could take the stained glass besides the traditional route. And I wanted to add neon to it, so I would go down to Houston because I'd heard of a neon shop, and I'd this guy Tim who had the shop, I'd take like a bent coat hanger or something and go, can you make me this? And they were finally like, why don't you just come down and learn?
Oh, cool.
And so I was really lucky. I started learning how to blow glass probably around 82 or 83.
Nice.
And since I had worked in glass previously, I think it helped me catch on faster because I kind of already knew how to cut glass and how to deal with glass. And so I was making art, but then a restaurant down on Congress said, hey, can you make neon for my restaurant? And then our Ion Art business just kind of grew,
Is that when it went commercial?
It kind of became more commercial. We started doing neon signs for restaurants and bars, and we've done a lot of movie sets, commercials. I mean, through the years you do pretty much, whatever would pay us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so kind of what we found is that we really wanted to be artists, but the reality is that not that many people want to spend money on art. But signs are something that everybody needs for their businesses, and so.
But they can be artistic as
well.
well.
Yes, and so
it was a happy medium where we could start making signs, and that's something that people actually needed and could rationalize the expense. But it could be artistic all at the same time.
Yeah.
But as the years went on, we felt that we were getting more and more into the kind of the commercial aspect and less into the art aspect of our business. And so in recent years, we're gravitating back towards focusing on art. I mean, we still make signs to this day, we always will, but we would prefer for art to be the focus of our business.
But we have to say, doing the commercial end of the business taught us a lot.
Yeah.
Because we had to learn a whole lot about permitting with the city, how to install, how to withhold certain wind loads, and it also gave us Greg was a big proponent of always buying equipment as we needed equipment and expanding. And so having our studio and getting to have all our little toys there to help build things, and the people that work there, to help make all the art, I think it's a good thing. You learn a lot on the commercial end too that helps you with the artistic end. Like we also build a lot of art for other people. Like we just did a project for a woman in Fort Worth who had won a big Art in Public Places to take little origami she was an origami bird maker, but to make them into these 8-foot steel origami birds. So she came to us to do that for her. And so we do a lot of that too.
That makes a lot of sense. How, a lot of the people that listen to this are other makers that a lot of them, which has been really rewarding for Kate and I, are people right on the fence of will I jump in full scale. How important do you think having that commercial side first has been, and how many years, do you think you would have been where you are today if you hadn't had that?
No, I mean, so going back to our roots, neither Sharon or I had any business experience. And typically, I think that if you're going to become self-employed, like if you want to become a baker, you don't just open up a bakery. You work at a bakery first for many years, and you learn everything there is to know about baking and running the business, and then you open up your own bakery. And we kind of missed that whole step. We just jumped out there, and so it was certainly the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And it took years, but now we consider ourselves pretty savvy business people. And
we lived in a warehouse downtown,
Yeah, we were very poor for very long.
Yeah,
Sharon and I, we had a tiny little apartment we built in the back of our studio. We were struggled for years.
Yeah. But it was fun. Yeah. We were young, and we got to live down in downtown Austin when it was still affordable. There were a lot of artists that lived down there in warehouses and stuff back. In the mid 80s is when it was. Yeah,
so we struggled for about 10 years, and then in the 90s we had our big break. Yeah. And that is when Whole Foods started expanding in America and opening up dozens and dozens of locations nationwide. And we got in with Whole Foods, and we were doing these signage decor packages for them. So we would build these large packages and then we put them all on a truck and drive them to whatever store they were opening somewhere in America.
But back then they allowed total artistic freedom. Like they would go, okay, we're building a store in Fort Lauderdale or in Miami and it's going to be in this neighborhood, and we would try to go there and design something that kind of went.
Cool.
And they let us be really wild. You know, at first, the first Whole Foods before it got so corporate through the years, you know.
That's cool.
But that was, that really, number one, it elevated us out of poverty. And secondly, Whole Foods was a known entity, and it gave us credibility. Like up to then, sometimes it was hard. It's like, who are you guys and why should we trust you with our money? But it's like, oh, you work for Whole Foods. Oh, okay, you're trustworthy. And so not only did it elevate us out of poverty, but it gave us credibility to then tackle even larger projects. Nice. And maybe another thing I'd like to mention is that at Ion Art, it's not just about the neon and the stained glass, and we work with all kinds of materials, all manner of metals and woods and plastics and foams, and there's very little we cannot fabricate. Like sometimes architects will come to us and they have a vision of some architectural decor project, maybe for the entrance of an office building that they want to build, and maybe it involves wood and metal and lighting, and some engineering is required, and they have a concept, but they don't really know how to move that forward. And normally you would have to go to a metal guy and a lighting guy, and who's going to engineer this and all of that. And we have all of those skills in-house, so anyone can bring a complicated project to Ion Art, and we can cover all of that, from the refining the designs into a manner in which it can be efficiently built and be structurally sound, properly engineered, and we can see that all the way through to fabrication, permitting as required, and installation. So it's kind of a turnkey deal. If you come to Ion Art with a complicated project, we're qualified.
Yeah. That seems like it's quite important for the stuff you're doing to be able to do it all under one roof. You know, it's different. Like me as a mechanical engineer, I can send drawings somewhere, but they're mechanical engineering projects. Yours are art projects with a hint of mechanical engineering in them. So to have it all under one roof.
We do get an engineer. We do, especially on signage, get it sent to an engineer to get them to put a stamp and make.
So what we do is we engineer it, but then we have an outside third-party engineer approve our designs. But also another benefit is if you come to us with your complicated project, the first thing we ask is, what's your budget? And so what we try and do is tell you whether it can be done for your stated budget, and design the project and value engineer it to match that budget. Because what we've seen a lot is architects or designers design something on behalf of a client, and then they try and piecemeal it together from a half dozen different companies, and all of a sudden you're like over budget. And so budgeting is a big concern. Everything we do, we keep budget in mind, and then also just streamline the process from a timing standpoint. Just things just move faster if you can keep it under one roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you can iterate faster, and like you say, budget, you're not iterating at the cost of someone else's budget. You can iterate within your own time. One thing that I'm struggling with here, and it's not a bad thing, how do you classify Ion Art? Yeah. Because I don't think you're artists. You're certainly not a job shop. You're not a fabrication shop. You just kind of seem to be this like
wealth of knowledge.
Well, we call ourselves a design build, but we are kind of a little bit of because, you know, we've kind of struggled with that too through the years. And in fact, a few years ago, we got audited by the IRS, and they didn't even know how to classify us. They were like trying to put us at manufacturing, but then we didn't have shelves full of manufactured stuff for sale because we were a one-off, you know?
So Sharon's right. So it's kind of a broad term, but we call ourselves a design build company.
Yeah, that works.
We design, we build.
Yeah.
Because it, would,
That makes sense.
it maybe could be design anything, build anything company
Yeah.
to the sounds of things. That's wicked.
Yeah.
So you've got, we've seen on your site, you've got I know it's not as big as it was, but it still seems to be quite an extensive team.
We do.
How do you find team members that, it'd be quite difficult to find people to do this, I can imagine.
Absolutely.
And the right people to do this.
Yeah. So fortunately, Ion Art is pretty well known, and a lot of people want to work for us, so we
Nice.
get to be fairly selective. But the our quest to find new talent is a never-ending process.
It is hard in America.
I mean, we have an awesome team. Sometimes people move on for one reason or another, so we are. When people call and say, hey, we want to learn about your company, maybe work for you, even if we're not hiring at that moment, we encourage people to come in.
Yeah.
We like to meet people face to face, in addition to seeing their portfolio and their resume.
But that being said, we have a lot of our people that work for us, like Chris, who y'all were talking with,
Yeah.
and Mark, that have been with us for years, that have kind of grown with us, and we've all kind of evolved together, like
That's
Wes. Our lead fabricator, Ricky, has been with us 15 years.
Oh.
And he was from Honduras, and and he can pretty much fabricate what we want. We can come and talk, as people know. And so a lot of our team, we have quite a few people that have been there over 10 years.
That's good.
Just kind
Credit
of
to
have
you.
grown with us.
Yeah, and our team is extremely diverse. I mean, we're
our little
female-
mini UN, we call it.
Oh.
so the female-male ratio is very diverse. And then we have people from Mexico, from Honduras. We have Americans. We have people from South America.
Chris is from Taiwan. Well,
Nice.
Chris, who runs our company, is from Taiwan. So we're very diverse.
Amazing.
It feels like you need that for this to be successful, because to do what you're doing, you need all walks of life, all skill sets,
we do.
arguably all cultures. That must really help the evolution of, good team members must allow this to be what it is, because of
It is.
it doesn't feel like you ever stagnate.
No.
Yeah, and
Constantly building.
so kind of what I found interesting is when we were a younger company and Sharon and I were younger, and even when we had some employees, we knew more than anybody else about anything at our company. But that's changed now, where Sharon and I still own the company, and we kind of are in charge of the direction of the company, but we have so many young and talented people that are infinitely better at many things than we are.
Yeah.
There's certain things that Sharon and I are not particularly good at. We think we're pretty good leaders, but for instance, I don't consider myself a good manager. We have managers that are much better at managing than I am. And so there's a lot of needed talents that we have young people that are much better at it than we are.
And we have other older people too, but
Yeah.
we grew up in the age of before computers. Like our whole business was before computers were built. So we hand drew, or I had a projector and projected it, and Greg hand jigsawed everything out, and everything was by hand.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the extensive computerized drawing and work order. And so the new generation of people, they come at art from a different way. They do it first on their computer, or design it and make work orders and then build, whereas we used to I just start building stuff, sometimes, and it kind of evolves, like my Nautilus babe over there, or Greg's bats. He just built those bats, hand sawing because everyone else was busy, but now we have the laser and we have the CNC router,
Right.
Yeah.
and we have all these tools that make it easier to do cooler stuff.
Yeah, as an example, if you wanted a sign that said makers, nowadays we would get your logo, it would be a vector file, and we would size it and feed it into our computers, and then we have these CNC machines that would cut out the letters, and then the fabricator takes it from then. But back then, we would get your business card, and Sharon would, with a projector, blow it up on the wall. It'd be
Or
all
hand draw it,
and then with tracing paper, I would transpose that image
Graph
onto a sheet of
paper.
aluminum, and I would literally hand cut it out with a jigsaw. But now we have CNC machines, lasers and cutters to do that sort of thing. And So yeah, our company was probably over 10 years old before we even had a computer.
Wow.
And we had one computer for a long time with one guy that knew how to use it,
Yeah.
you know. 'Cause
That's crazy.
I mean, I took some computer in college, but that was in the 80s, and it was the old computers with the punch cards, you know, Fortran. It wasn't, and you know.
And how's that been for you guys, taking that on? Is it something that you took to, or was it something that was maybe some resistance from at first?
No, we had no resistance. We've been always open to expanding and learning and doing, you know, because it gives us a lot more, well, we can build things a lot better, like cutting all this glass and stuff out on these statues or those tiki towers would have been really hard if Greg was trying to jigsaw all that stuff,
yeah,
you know.
We've always embraced new technology.
Not that we've learned how to do it.
Yeah,
like, I can't run the laser, but...
But you've got guys that can.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. But we think if you want to grow your business and get better at what you do,
or your craft,
it's always good to embrace new technology and merge it into your company if it's useful.
Yeah. And what about sort of the same question really for the team side of things? So you guys were just you two together for so long. You obviously had great chemistry in building things and great chemistry as a couple. But then what about when you had to start bringing other people in? That can be quite a scary thought for a lot of people. How did that look?
It can. There is a learning curve. There's a learning curve of letting go and trusting other people, you know, too, because it's like you're a baby and you always did things, but you have to go, okay, I'll believe you and let you do what you think is best. And I think Greg had a little harder time than me kind of letting go of that, you know.
But
it's hard.
But we've totally, I mean, we are not micromanagers. We like for our people, for our team to be proactive and feel they can make decisions without coming to us for everything.
Yeah.
So we embrace that.
And for this art show, we let anyone who had an idea that they wanted to build something, then we would all build it. And
cool.
You know, it's really a team effort here because, you know, I come up with the ideas, or Greg might figure out how to do it, but then someone, you know, all aspects all the way down. And the painters will let them kind of decide how they want to paint. I mean, or, you know, everyone gets to feel like they're being involved in the project. And I think that it's a lot of work, this event especially, but everyone likes, you know, it's more fun than doing a taco sign in a strip center somewhere, you know.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like you really do have a team that complements you guys.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah, for sure.
That put up with us.
Maybe that's a good way to put it. So I want to talk a little bit about where we are today. You know, had you done events previous to this, or is this your first sort of big? I know this has been running a few years now, but was this a real art? Like, was this the end goal kind of thing?
We've always done events through the years. In fact, when I first met Greg, I was throwing an art party at my old place in downtown Austin, you know, in the '86. But then we did events. We did like part of the West Austin studio tour, and we would have art shows at our studio and do little art parties and things. But really, the first surreal was the 2017, was when we did the surreal jungle in our parking lot. And then...
So that wasn't here, that was in your parking lot?
That was in our parking lot.
Right.
We have a complex where we have like approximately 6 acres of land, and we have some other tenants, and we had a beer brewer, and we had a...
Excuse me, buddy, just mind that camera. I just don't want you to knock into it. Thank you. You're fine to walk past it, I was worried you knocked into it. Don't go the smaller way.
No, it's fine, it doesn't matter.
But, okay, I lost my train of thought right then.
Sorry, I was asking about the first surreal was in your...
Our events, yeah. So 2017 was, and it was Sharon's idea. It was the 100-year anniversary since the invention of neon.
No one knows exactly, but
yeah,
there's a lot of
approximate 100 years. And so it's like, let's have a birthday party for neon. And so it was a one-night event only. And we did it in the parking lot of our business park, which we own. We developed our own park. And it was for one night only. And it was on a significantly smaller scale than what we have going on here. But we had a huge turnout. It was great. And it was called the Surreal Jungle. The next year, we changed the theme. We named it the Surreal Sea, which is 2018. And again, it was a one-night event. The amount of people that came exceeded what we had the previous year. And then in 2019, we did it a third time. And again, we did the Surreal Sea was the theme. Everything
and this
was sort
still
of
at your business park.
still at
Yes.
the business. It was a nautical
And it was
theme.
always a one-night thing.
Yeah, we had like
Which was
4,000 people show up, but what made it logistically very difficult is we had to set everything up and have it for one night only, and then break everything back down so that on Monday all of our tenants could conduct their business at the park. And then also another logistical problem is we had no parking for the people that came.
Because it was in the parking lot.
Yeah,
and
That's
so,
where we had the show.
yeah, and so it was a problem. We urged people to use public transportation. That didn't work out, so people were carpet bombing the neighborhood with their cars, and the neighbors were unhappy. And then COVID came along, and it got canceled for a few years. But then through a series of events, we were offered the opportunity to have this event here at the Botanical Garden. And so last year, 22, was the first year to have it at the Botanical Garden, which was great because that also enabled us to have it for more than one night. So it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the subsequent Thursday, Friday, Saturday, same as this year.
And there was a lot more logistics because we had to get the stuff here. When we were having it in our parking lot, we could just get our forklift and just spread everything out around the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know.
And so there's a lot that goes into these events that number one, it's a huge monumental undertaking to physically transport all of these pieces down here, to set them up, to connect them to, it takes like 500 amps to run all of this. It's huge.
Yeah.
And we have generators and infrastructure to support all of this all over the place. But then there's also things that I think we didn't think about going into this, like, well, we need porta potties, and we need parking lot attendants, and we need valet people and trash people and
the EMS and security
EMS
and
and
the
security
police
guards. And so there's a million moving parts that when guests come, they don't necessarily think about that this is something that's part of the show that's required. And so it's a big deal. There's a lot of moving parts, and to coordinate all of that, make sure nothing gets overlooked is a challenge. But we feel we're learning. On Saturday, we had a great event. There were some snafus that we could see, but our guests could not. The response.
They're the good ones.
Yeah,
They're the good ones where you get to learn and nobody notices it. Been there.
Yeah, no one notices if a piece of neon we didn't get up or something, but we all, you know.
But the partnership with the garden and the conservancy is wonderful. We hope this is an annual event moving forward. We think it will be. It's bringing awareness to the garden, which is a jewel of Austin, but many people don't know about it. I mean,
we have no idea about it. We have no idea. If it wasn't for you guys, we would not have known there was.
Yeah, and so
not only would we not have known it, we wouldn't have known it was so big.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge.
So it's
lovely as well.
The hope is that many people are now aware of the garden because of our event, and will continue to visit the garden even in between when we're not having our event, because it's an absolute beautiful area, and it's practically in downtown Austin.
Yeah.
And so,
and it
also,
was real special to us because, like I said, we do a
profit sharing with the garden, so they benefit financially from having us here as well, in addition to an increased presence of people coming in to visit.
But we actually rent the garden from the city of Austin for the event. You know, it cost a lot to put this on. We're trying to keep it the price down, but
it's a big scary monster, the financial part of it.
I can only imagine.
Did you ever? Well, first off, your commercial experience, that must have been invaluable when it came to doing something like this.
Yeah.
You know, like you mentioned, the permits, the engineers sign off, even running electricity. That must have been really invaluable.
And we had dealt with the city a lot, because to do this, we had to go through special events, and we did have to get a lot of permits to even put this on. And so we have a person that works at our shop that's in charge of all the permitting, Shayna. And so she was able to deal with the ACE permit and all the permitting here, and they all know us, you know, just from having been in business so many years in Austin.
You must be the guys that when the permit officer, when someone slides it across their desk, they're just like, what now? What do they want to do? It's awesome
Sometimes.
though.
Yeah.
So you've always been based in Austin, haven't you?
Yes.
And it's always been this is your sort of home. Was part of this whole thing about elevating Austin as much as it was about your art, or is it just happenstance?
Well, we want to do our share to help keep Austin Austin.
Yeah.
And you know, to create, Austin has every kind of event, but they don't really have a big art event. I mean, they have art shows. They have Bacon Street, where everyone has their own individual little booth set up and they're selling their art. But to have a big interactive art show like this that was about the art and it wasn't about the bands, they just don't have. And so we wanted to create something, and we do want to do our share to help push the arts and make people aware in Austin. And yeah, like you said, to make the people
you know, Austin is known as the music capital of the world, and there's tons of other things going on here, but why not bring art into the fray of what Austin is well known for?
Yeah.
And this show, you know,
and we think our event is really unique. We've never heard of anything else like it.
Yeah, we know all the other kind of neon people in the country, because there's really not that many people that, you know, neon's kind of a dying art. And most of it's in New York, Brooklyn, San Francisco, Seattle. That's both East and West Coast. We're like the only ones kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm the only female neon glass blower around, and I have been for 40 years. There's no other neon women. There's like me and 6 guys in town.
How's that been for you?
Well, you know, I never really had thought that much about it until a few years ago. I think 2019, I did a show. I met these women that reached out to me that started this group called She Bends.
Yeah.
And it's all the female neon benders and we did a show in Colorado. There was 14 of us, and 2 were from London, 1 was from Australia, and the rest were all from the East and West Coast. And just meeting all those other women, then I realized, wow, this is really rare, you know.
That's awesome.
I'm doing this. But
because neon in itself's quite rare. Like back home, there's only 1 in Scotland I know of, Solus. We don't have the same like neon light culture. That neon light culture must have been what kept neon alive for so long here. You know, the big signage. Certainly like the Nashville and the Austin signage is synonymous with neon, you know?
Well, it's kind of come and go, and we don't really think there's that much neon in Austin.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you go to some other cities and see what they have, San Antonio, you'll see has more neon.
Right.
Okay.
And stuff, but I think neon did make really good signage until when fluorescence came around, and the neon kind of died for a while, but then it comes back, and then when LEDs hit, you know, the neon signage. And in a lot of cities, they are regulating away from allowing neon. But I do feel like it's going to live on as an art form.
Right.
And it's getting harder and harder to get neon supplies or materials, you know, just because there's not as many people doing it anymore.
Yeah, when there's not as many people doing it, the supply side just kind of dwindles away, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the worrying bit. You know, it's part of the reason we do this. If it's not just the supply side, it's the teaching of it and being able to do it. You know, it only takes 1 generation to go away.
I know.
Just lose that completely. I look at shipbuilding in Glasgow. You know, 2 generations ago, everyone was a shipbuilder. You know, Billy Connolly, like famous comedian, shipbuilder. And his whole generation would have been shipbuilders.
Yeah.
But then when the shipbuilding went away, now we've got another ship contract in Glasgow to build 4 or 5 Navy frigates. And they're having to build a whole new college. I think there's like a £10 million investment on a college to train people again how to do the ships.
How to do that, yeah.
It's quite worrying for a lot of hands-on art makery, sort of traditional crafts, as it were, to use all of the popular colloquialisms at the moment.
Yeah.
It's quite a worrying time. Do you guys ever think about like apprenticeships or training or courses or?
Well, you know, I do have an apprentice now that started in January, and he was already knew how to blow glass, a different type of glass, and he's catching on. But I'm excited, and we have our 2 daughters, and both say they want to learn. My one helps; she pumps and helps, but she likes kind of assembling it or putting it together better. But and our other daughter, she blows like bowls and vases, a different kind, but we want to eventually evolve it and see if we can blow some things and put gas in, you know, and just keep trying to experiment of what we can do and push the glass.
But also in the outside of the neon, we hire many people that have some skill, but then they come on board and they then learn additional skills. Like maybe they're a modest fabricator, they come on board, get some training, and turn into a better fabricator, which is, I guess, sort of like an apprenticeship. And or people come on board, we hire them to be a CNC operator, but then they express an interest in learning one of the other skills required in our company, and so we don't hold anybody back. If you want to learn how to do something new,
that's cool.
Sure.
That's great.
And I think it's starting to get more popular in America again to build things, and handmade things are getting more popular. Like we always wanted to compete with Italy and Germany or Copenhagen on design. We were never trying to compete with Mexico or China. And when we were first starting our company, most people are always like, well, you can get it cheaper in Mexico, go to Mexico. And we're like, we don't want to compete, you know, we don't want to be a company that's competing, building the cheapest stuff we can build. We want to build, I mean, why can't in America being a builder or designer be like it is in Europe, where it, you know, it's a legitimate career and people look at it as a legitimate career.
I mean, we want our products to be a good value, but it's not our mission statement to be the lowest price.
We want to be fair. We want to pay our employees. We don't have minimum wage employees in a sweatshop. You know, we're trying to all make a living. And so doing this too is a way for everyone to kind of get to express themselves.
I don't think you could put out the caliber of stuff you're putting out if you did have minimum wage employees.
Yeah.
Because that comes with, you know, it sounds like the kind of people that you're employing are real go-getters.
I mean, with our kind of company, you would not be successful if you had a high turnover.
No.
And the best way to assure that is you have to let people know you appreciate that they're there, and in order to do so, you have to compensate them adequately. And so,
which we would always love to pay everyone more, but we are what it is, you know.
There's also a business side of it that has to happen. You could pay someone more for 2 months and then the film folds. You'd rather pay them as well as you can for 10 years, you know? And you guys seem to have done a good job of that.
We try to be open and fair about it, you know. It's not like we pay ourselves a whole bunch and, you know, we all kind of are on the same level. But,
is this where you see Ion Art going more of? Would you move away from the commercial side if this sort of stuff was more sustainable? Maybe do stuff outside Austin? Have you ever thought about that?
We do stuff outside of Austin. We do stuff all over the country. Our guys have traveled. A.B. thinks he's been to every state installing something here, but we do a lot of stuff all over.
Right.
Okay.
but
and I've even shipped sculptures to France.
Nice.
So,
but I think we certainly like this direction with doing more art, and we'll just sort of see where it takes us. But yeah, we'd like to do more of that,
or more architectural decor. We like.
And so, you know, one thing about Ion Art is, you know, people ask us sometimes, well, what's your mission plan? Where do you see yourself in a year? And it's like, we don't know. You know, opportunities fall out of the sky that we can't foresee. For instance, when we did the Surreal last year at the Botanical, and we had all of these new pieces that we built, then people approached us and wanted to see if they could rent some of our pieces for special events. Cool. And so that's something that we didn't. So now it's sort of a side business where people can rent our pieces for special events. For instance, ACL, which is the big annual 3-day music or 6-day music festival in Austin, they rented our neon pendulums.
We made them a big thing.
And then there's other people have rented our neon benches for special occasions and parties.
Invented all our tiki stuff when Jimmy Buffett came to town.
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett came to town, and they wanted to rent all of our tiki-themed neon items. So that's something that a year ago, had somebody asked us, we just didn't know what that opportunity was going to fall out of the sky, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. So
we're trying to find new ways to make a living as an artist, besides the traditional where you just put your stuff in a gallery and kind of depend on that gallery to sell it for you, and they do the markup. But also with the gallery, as they lead you kind of what they want you to make, because they want what will sell in their gallery, you know. And so this way we can make whatever we want, and we're not, if it sells or not, we don't care, because this is a new, you're paying to come and hang out with the art and to party with it and dance around it and enjoy it. And anyway, we're kind of excited about this as a new way to be able to share art with people, you know.
Yeah, I like this. I like the thought of this because you can show so much. What do you... I'm going to keep that question to after. What about other artists getting involved and other people? And I know all your team gets a say in it, but is there a world where this becomes like an Austinites gallery haven where you've got lots of other stuff here on show? Is that maybe something you've thought about?
We are open. We are open to that. And, you know, we've invited, I invited all the other neon artists here to come to our event that are in town. And we were actually, you know, I look at all artists should all be able to do good and be successful. I don't really look at them as competition, you know. And so we feel like there's enough art. Everyone can do art if they wanted, you know. And so we don't know where all this will evolve. We're trying to still figure it out, because we did let some guys came to us. Some young guys, and they had taught themselves projection mapping during COVID and lockdown. He had always worked in the staging business, and he's like, "Hey, can we come? We'll set up it." And, you know, they lit up one of the towers, the little tower by the pond down there, and was doing projection mapping. And if it adds, you know, to the show or to the event or overall feel, we're totally open to, you know, experimenting and adding new things.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
So afterwards, you keep all this stuff?
Yes. It all squishes back in.
Yeah.
Some goes to our yard, some goes to our daughter's house.
Yeah.
We just kind of pack it everywhere. We put it around our complex for like an outdoor sculpture garden for people.
We refer to it as trying to put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult because we had so much product, and some of it we had to store in our production space, which made us less efficient with some of our ability to fabricate because things are just in the way. And now this year we've made so many more pieces, so we made the decision, even though we have 2 buildings totaling 20,000 square feet, we've made the decision to rent a space to store many of our pieces. So
and not even just the pieces, a lot of the infrastructure.
Yeah, so it's not just the pieces. We have
tubs of extension cord, bins of just all kinds of stuff.
And just directional signs, and there's just
the furniture now.
So we've rented a 4,500 square foot space for the sole purpose of storing many of these items that will not go back to Ion Art and be in because our gallery at Ion Art's pretty small.
Yeah.
Could you turn that into an experience in itself?
Maybe.
Yeah,
we'll
so
see.
that thought has come about, if we could put these things in a space that could serve as a venue, like people might want to have a wedding or throw a party in a setting where all these pieces are set up. That is something that we have considered, but we haven't found a way to make that financially work out yet. But it's something we're toying with.
You know, I look at like Camera Obscura back in Edinburgh, and these sort of, that's probably the closest, it's not close by any means, but it's the closest. It's like a sort of art exhibition, illusions, mind-bending stuff, and they seem to have been really, really popular. It's commercial, like it is a commercialised thing, but it's like a go-to thing in Edinburgh, you know? And I wonder if there's it feels a shame to put, you know, Kate and I are super lucky, we've got to see it in the day and we're coming back at night. Not everyone's going to be able to come to Austin to do that. And it feels a shame for it not to be somewhere that people could come and see, having seen the work and knowing, and having an inclination as to the amount of work that's gone into it, you know? It'd be great if you could put it on somewhere, permanently.
The show at night, you do get some daylight, because it starts at 6:30, and it doesn't really get dark till later.
Right.
And
hey, pardon me, y'all, we're doing an interview right now, so
it's okay. I can take pictures.
Just making. Yeah, it's important to note we are in a public garden in front of the waterfall, and everyone is super jazzed about your work. Everyone wants to stop and take pictures of it.
Yes, we appreciate it. Yeah. I know, you don't want to chase them off.
No, hey, it's totally fine. I don't mind at all. Sorry, so we were saying the ability to turn it into like a walk-through exhibition, and where were we with that? Oh, I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
We were somewhere with that. The ability to turn it into a walk-through exhibition. Kate, help me
here. You were
here.
talking about Edinburgh, the commercial aspect of the event. Oh, no, thank you. Yeah. We appreciate you.
Thanks, but we'll be done here soon. Thank you.
Sorry, what was I saying?
You were talking about in Edinburgh, a commercial show. That's
the camera obscura thing in Edinburgh is probably the closest I've seen to something like this. It's very illusion based, and it's turned into like a go-to thing in Edinburgh. It is commercialised, but it feels like that would be something you guys could maybe employ. And it just feels a shame for all of this to go back into storage.
Yeah, you know, we've had a lot of people tell us that we should take it on the road and go to different gardens and set up at other gardens. And really my idea to do it in the garden, I went to the Chihuly show years ago in Dallas with my mom and my daughters, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. I would love to, do something like this in the garden. And then like 5 years later, we were able to. So it was really nice.
That's cool.
That's wicked. And you could really pick this up and pop it in anywhere. Botanic garden.
Yeah,
There's botanic gardens in every major city.
Yeah, there are, or some kind of nice gardens to be able to set up.
It's not out of the question. It would be more difficult to transport it out of town, but certainly doable.
Yeah, I'm always doing a lot of rush emergency glass repair.
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah,
how do you tackle shipping and moving all this stuff?
We've gotten pretty good at shipping. We know how to pack it and ship it after
So we've got
40 years, we've learned.
We've got enclosed trailers. We have open trailers, because some of our pieces are huge, like the octopus piece. I mean, it disassembles to some extent, but it's very large.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So, and you're all shipping it yourself, aren't you? You're set up to ship it all yourself and move it around and move it to
Some stuff we do. Like a lot of our big projects we sell in other states. Like we just did a huge project for Google in New York.
Wow.
And the guys drove it out there, and then one way with a big Penske truck, and then they flew back.
Nice.
Wow.
A rental truck. Yeah, rental, but to haul it. And they installed it out there.
Oh,
It kind of depends on where we go. Some states where it's union, we're not allowed to install, or we have to have people there overseeing or helping or doing it. So it varies.
We have a lot of people find us, like for instance, we've done a tremendous amount of work for SpaceX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, down in
Boca Chico.
Boca Chico, the small town where they have the launch pad and all of that. So we made their main entry sign. It's these 8-foot tall lit letters,
6 foot.
or 6 foot tall
neon, big
letters
neon
that say Starbase.
Nice.
And and we've done a lot of work for Tesla here in Austin at their Gigafactory.
Yep.
Nice.
And Google.
I mean, it's hard, I think we're known now because it's hard to find people that hand make. So, word just gets out. I mean, we don't have any salespeople or anything. We could probably do better.
Yeah.
We did, but it's always kind of been word of mouth.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, unlike my brother and my sister, I was not particularly academically inclined.
Right.
And but fortunately, we had an auto mechanics class.
He was in Germany there.
Yeah, so I was going to an American high school in Germany because I was an Army brat. But our high school had an auto mechanics class, and so for my last 3 years of high school, I had 2 hours of auto mechanics a day, which was also learning how to weld and do metal forming and things like that. And so when I barely graduated high school, I had some really solid skills under my belt and that's something that I think is unfortunately falling by the wayside in America, is where a lot of the shop classes and things like that are going away. And so, because the emphasis is to become a white collar career, and so we know a lot of young people that don't know how to do anything with their hands.
And it's no different back home.
Yeah.
It's no different, and I can't talk for Europe, but I can talk for the United Kingdom. You know, we employ, the company I work for in film, or the company I contract for, we employ a lot of welder fabricators, and it's very difficult to find. We usually end up just employing keen young lads and showing them.
Yeah. It is
very
hard.
difficult.
You know, I mean, we hire a lot of foreign people, and we have to, because they know how to do stuff. And it's kind of sad, you know, that it is like that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, it is sad at the moment. There is a slight shift, and if you know, people like you keep doing what you're doing, and other makers and craftsmen keep doing what they're doing, you know, social media is great for it. You can see someone, you know, Ben the saddle maker, like 130,000 followers. It's not 130,000 people that are going to buy saddles, let's be very honest about that. There's 130,000 people that have an interest in the craft because they can see it.
Yeah.
And then an event like this just brings it even more tangible. You can see it in real life, not just on a screen.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important to me about this, and why I'm interested in more of this kind of stuff. But I'm less of an arts guy, I'm more of an engineering guy, and that's what's interesting about this. You know, you enjoy the colours and the shapes of everything, but then I see some of the bigger engineering projects that are here, and that's cool, that's interesting. I think you've done a good job of catering to husband and wives that come and see it. You know? It's not just who's the arty one in the relationship. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people could benefit for doing stuff like this, or getting, you know, you guys have built what sounds like a bit of a powerhouse in ion art to be able to do this yourself. But I do wonder if there's a world where people could club together and do something like this. You know, smaller makers.
Yeah, they could all work, form a committee together.
Yeah,
I think so, that there could be. But you know, there's still in America, there's like this thing about art isn't a real career, or any kind of the arts, you know, and like, I don't know why, because there's so many fields to go into in art. I mean, in acting, music, building things, you know, just that they don't really push. Like when our daughter graduated from Boulder, an art major, and I'm sitting by this lady next to me, and she's like, oh, so, you know, my son's graduating, what's your daughter graduating? And she said, my son's an engineer. And I said, oh yeah, my daughter's graduating in art. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, why are you sorry? You
really?
know?
She said she's sorry.
Sorry, yeah. And I thought that was so like really weird, you know? It's like, what's wrong with being an art major? But that's kind of, people think, oh, they're an art major, they're kind of not doing anything else in life, so they settled for art or something.
That's a really strange thing for someone to pass comment on.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry your daughter's ended up that way. That's the weirdest thing ever, isn't it?
I thought it was pretty weird at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm glad, you know, because both of our daughters, we're hoping are going to take our business to the next generation and be involved and take over, and we don't know where they could take it. But now that we've created this thing, it's like, what do you do with it, you know? You get older, do you sell it, do you close it, do you get your kids to take it? And in America, there's not a lot of kids taking over second, like in Europe, you know, like when I was in Milan visiting, my sister lives overseas, but my mom, we went into the ceramics pottery place, and they had been open since the 1770s, and it was like, I don't know how many generations of family, but it was all family. And some of the generations had made sets of dishes, you know, it was like nice porcelain and dishes and things that they still had. So this is the design my great-grandmother designed, you know, we're still selling, and this is our new design we're selling. And I just think that's so cool, you know.
There's so much worth to that, isn't there? You know, all this stuff, no matter how good you are to it, there's always another level somewhere.
Yeah.
And having someone else, you can only work through so many levels in your lifespan.
Yeah.
Sweet. So continuing at your Austin-based,
at our really messy conference.
yeah, but this, I was struggling how to, again,
Sum
the same
up.
way I was struggling how to sum up your company, because it is like the design and build space, I suppose, is the best way to do it. It's large with a lot of different abilities within the roof, which is cool to see.
Yeah.
And we already talked, so I don't want to like repeat ourselves about how important it is for you to have that space that you can be in and do everything in. Now seeing it firsthand, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Was that always the target from the start, to have an under one roof?
Did we even have a target?
Yeah.
We were just,
Well,
we used to be like, oh, if we could sell one more flamingo, we could go skiing.
Yeah.
You know, when we were young, you know.
Yeah.
but in the beginning, we rented space, and the spaces weren't never adequate, and we kind of bounced around from space to space, and the desire was always there to eventually own our own building.
Yeah.
And finally in the 90s, when we started making some money, then we thought like, okay, now we can finally build our own building. Let's just find that property. And then there was a unique opportunity to buy this property here. And then it's like, well, the property is so large, why don't we build a bunch of buildings? And then the idea sort of grew. It's like if we can have a building for Ion Art and then build some more and rent those out and supplement our income and just build some financial stability. And so originally Ion Art just had part of this building, and then we were renting out part, and then those people moved on, and the company was growing. We busted out the wall, and then Ion Art took the whole building, and then we continued to expand, and then I had another building become available, so Ion Art. Yeah, so when Sharon and I first started, we had a 1,200 square foot space? I mean, with an 8-foot ceiling, and now we've got 20,000 square feet.
Yeah, when I would blow glass, I would have to duck so I wouldn't hit it on the ceiling to do like a bend up.
Yeah.
You know? Luckily, I was more agile back then.
But yeah, so I like being self-reliant, and so that's why I'm a big proponent of buying machinery and tools. We rarely have to sub things out. Like sometimes a client says like, well, I don't want that painted, I want it powder coated, and it's like, fine. So we'll have to take it out and get it powder coated. And so there's a few things, or sometimes, as you know, as a machinist, there's some things that both of our machines can't cut, like glass or stone. You know, you need a water jet for that. So on occasion, but we don't, the use for water jetting for us is not large enough to rationalize the expense of buying a water jet. And so we're always, you know, looking at that. It's like, will we use this machine enough to make it worthwhile? If the answer is yes, then we buy it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And but we rarely have to outsource things.
And some have come and gone. Like we had a plasma cutter before the laser, because that seemed like that was the really cool thing. But then the lasers were so much better than a plasma cutter.
Yeah, the plasma's like a good stepping stone machine.
Yeah. So it was awesome for things like gussets and base plates and things like that, but it wasn't clean enough for a lot of the nicer
have to go
architectural
and clean it
stuff.
afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of grinding.
It was a lot of cleanup on the slag and stuff. Yeah.
Especially when you're such a art-based, you know, finished product-based, that this is stuff people are going to see. That must drive your machinery needs. You know, it's all about quality, isn't it? How did you go about acquiring so much machinery? You know, we talked before, like, are you proponents of auctions, and is that what you would recommend to other makers?
So typically we buy our machines new, but we finance them just like a car.
Like the lease to own, you know, kind of thing.
And so, you know, interest rates.
I told him though about how we got that at our CNC.
That was an anomaly that we got that.
At the auction.
That was a bit of an anomaly with the CNC router, but typically we buy our machines new.
But then, and you are always looking on Craigslist for deals or things come up, and
but
you
like
bought
a big
things,
things, like the laser, you know.
But super big, expensive stuff we've always had to finance.
Yeah.
You know.
But then you're taking that bet on yourself, aren't you? That's the best place to put your money, is bet on
Yeah.
yourself. And at least at that point, if that opens more doors for you, then you're winning.
That's kind of like our show at the Surreal. We're betting on ourselves,
Yeah.
doing our own art show instead of being part of someone else's art show.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
hopefully it'll pay off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people like it.
Yeah,
no, they
I
do.
think so. I think it's great, and I think it's great that you have bet on yourself. And it's also, there's a value, and it's then allowed you to employ so many guys under your own wing. You know, we
Yeah.
talked about how difficult that can be to find, but at least you know they're your guys and they're buying into your vision. They're not just and there's no discredit to having a job shop. I don't mean just a job shop in a negative sense of the word, but they're not
Yeah.
going to take the same care over it as what you're doing. And ultimately, that's what you need, isn't it? It's a finished product.
Yeah.
So
People
I
that
think
go along with our crazy idea.
Yeah.
yeah, people that are like, I know where you're going with this, and I'm on board.
Yeah. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
They like the challenge. Sometimes they like to go, what? You want what? But I think they all like the challenge.
And that's what it's all about. That's wicked. So I've not got many more questions, but have you guys got anything that we've not covered that you want to tell the world about Ion Art?
I think we
don't
covered
know.
all our bases.
Yeah.
We're always open to new ideas and doing projects with people and doing things anywhere. You know, we're if anyone wants to ever reach out to us about anything, and
Yeah,
like you said, we like
one
doing
other,
projects with other people too. I mean, you know, we're in. It's just fun, you know. We always want to do something new and exciting and different, and so we're always out there looking for
New project.
You know,
those kind of opportunities.
Another little philosophy at Ion Art is nothing needs to be mundane. So even when we build things that sort of have a utility function, like a bracket, like why not make it look cool?
Yeah.
And or like an AC intake vent, you know, why not make it look like a piece of art? And so that's everything that we do, we try and make it look good, even if it's no one's going to buy it as art because it has a utility function, but there's no reason why you can't try and add some art to everything you build, no matter what the function is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
love
ethos. I like that ethos.
Well, I've got one more question.
Okay.
The elusive question.
What advice would you give your younger selves?
Advice that I would have given my younger self.
To work smarter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stay focused maybe on the arts more than we did. I guess I would have liked to
Mistakes that we've
maybe, but
Yeah, probably. So what we're really good at right now, even though I'm about to be 60, I rarely make an important business decision in my capacity as a landlord or a big decision within the company without calling on the advice of friends of mine that are
it's good to have smarter friends than you are. You
yeah.
know.
So I think in our
We have a
younger
lot of
years,
smart friends.
we probably should have. We may have been able to move our company forward faster had we leaned on more advice.
Or trying to, you know,
Yeah, and
yeah.
because I think when you're young, we were both ambitious, and maybe with that comes a little bit of cockiness, where you think you've got it all figured out, and as a result, you don't always make the best decisions, and you learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think had we sought advice from people that are, whatever the topic is, if that was more their area of expertise, I think we probably could have moved the company forward faster.
Yeah, our motto was like, fake it till you make it. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you want that? Sure, no problem. We can build that.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, okay, how are we going to build that? You know?
Yeah.
But we'd do it somehow.
Yeah, so I think it's always good to ask for advice.
It's a good one.
That's some good advice in itself, to ask for advice, you know?
Yeah.
It's probably something that...
Or talk about it with other people, you know, and
Do you have quite a good support group within friends in business? Is it quite,
Yes.
is Austin a good place for that?
We have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs.
We've actually made friends with them, a lot of them through the years, from either them coming to us wanting something, and then we all became friends. But yeah, it seems like most everyone we hang out with, they're self-employed in some way.
But even the non-ion art part of our professional lives, which is building this business park, we weren't real estate developers.
Yeah.
We and when we bought this land, I had a lot of friends who were real estate developers, and so I was able to
well, and my dad was
reach out to them. Well, your dad knew a lot about construction, but
yeah.
So we were able to build this park as efficiently as one can, because we leaned heavily on advice from friends of ours that had gone down that path before.
But I think one reason that we had made it so long is, we were started off and we were so broke and young and artists and we didn't even try to get loans, but we couldn't have gotten loans. And so we never had a big business plan and then got a loan and started our company officially. It just kind of grew up around us. And so then when we did have mistakes, they were mistakes we could absorb because we didn't have some big loan we owed, or we kind of grew.
You had the freedom to do what you had to do. Yeah.
And, we've seen a lot of businesses, it seems like, especially bars down on 6th Street, come and go because they come in really cocky and they got this loan and they're building this fancy restaurant and they're paying themselves a really high salary and, get a new car, and then they're out of business in 6 months, where we lived in our shop, we drove our shop trucks, we really, built it as we went, and we never took out any kind of loans, really.
We've always lived below our means. That would be not advice I would give our younger selves, because we did that, but advice to anybody else, keep it below your means.
Yeah.
You say that a lot.
Yeah. We strive to live below our means. We've got one car between us. We travel is for business. We've got a 2-bed flat, which we bought in desperate need of restoration. Yeah. We've always kept it super, and we get a lot of questions, how come you guys can go to America? Oh, you must be making a mint, and you get that, and I get that.
Yeah, we get that too.
It is also the perception of the polished Instagram grid, that's the perception people have, but the reality is, nope, I'll swap your bank account with mine any day. I'm just spending it where I want to spend it and doing what I genuinely believe in,
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there's a right or wrong with regards to taking the loan or doing it yourself, but there is a right to living below your means and making sure the business can sustain that car or sustain that big salary. Every maker and every craftsman should aspire to have a nice car and a good salary if that's what they want. Of course they should, but that comes later down the line. You don't get into this industry, I say this industry as in the craft and sort of artisanal industry in general, because you want to be driving a nice car or you want a big house, or that's not why you get into it.
No.
So let the company be a thing. And this is only my thoughts and my advice. I'm not putting anyone off of what they do.
Yeah.
But let the company be its own standing entity before you think you've... Yeah. There's a few times where we've thought, oh, this is going well. Edition 1, whatever we done, just Facebook marketing was just working at the time. And we were doing big money on advertising, big money for us. Somebody else will look at it and be like, haha, spend it on dinner. But big money for us on advertising, and it was returning 4 and 5 times as much. And I was convinced we'd done it. I was like, we have hit the nail on the head. And then the algorithm changed and it just went,
yeah.
And I am so glad at that point we did not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, see, we've had a few times like that through the years, like 2008 when everything crashed. It was tough, and we've had periods. And when we were downtown, we had a fire in our studio, and we lost it. The frame shop next to us caught on fire in the night, and it spread. And we lived there, which we barely got out. But we lost our house and our business the same night, and
it's tough.
Really, the people in Austin were super nice. I think Austin was a very good town back in the day to start a company like we did, because it was kind of like the Wild West. There wasn't any rules or permitting or laws, or we didn't have to be licensed. We could just get out there and start it. And I feel like, especially a woman in business, that I was able to do that
You were
here. And I don't
supported.
know how many other places. Like Greg came from Germany. When I met him, he had been here a couple of years, but he said how hard in Germany it would be for just some person just to start another business.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, in
it's not
Germany,
like,
it seemed when I was growing up, at least, it seemed like if your family already had a company, you could kind of ease into that. But to start a company from scratch in Germany was very difficult thing to do. And I mean, things have changed now here in Austin as well. But as Sharon said, I mean, back then we were able to build electrical signs and just sell them without any regulation. And, and
Now we have
I
all
mean,
the
that changed.
regulations.
And at some point, you needed to have a Texas state electrical sign manufacturing license. And in order to have one of those, you need to either be or employ a master sign electrician, which I am and Mark is. And but yeah, so now we have all manner of
you know, we've got a UL, we've got workman's comp, we've got
all our signs
we
are,
spend a fortune on insurance.
Yeah, so right, and we have workers' compensation, and so
employee benefits.
Yeah,
It's like we're a legitimate company.
Yeah, 401ks.
Yeah.
So all of that, and
Yeah.
But it just shows that you're here to stay. It shows that you're serious about this. You know, doing all those things. You wouldn't do that if you were a fly-by-night company. You know.
Yeah.
So, Ace. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed our time. I really enjoyed walking around.
This was awesome.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see you guys on Friday.
Yeah.
We look forward to it.
it. And I'm looking forward to seeing the contrast between day and night.
Yeah, we'll head down for opening, I think, to see that
Yeah,
dusk.
come on down before it gets real crowded to make sure we bump into y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
Wicked.
Well,
Well,
thanks
let's
for your
wrap up
time.
at that.
Appreciate
Thanks
So are
it.
y'all going straight to San Antonio now? Or?
No, we're here for the
we're in
week.
Austin for the week. And then
Okay.
we're not in San Antonio till
Sunday.
Oh, I see. I thought you were
we've got
heading
a
and
good
coming
time.
back. Okay, cool.
Well,
Wicked.
thanks again.
Thank you very
What
much.
hotel are y'all staying at?